So apparently Gavin Newsom is deploying the National Guard in California to help out at food banks. With the current news that SNAP benefits might be delayed next month, there are millions of families that are going to need food. And Gavin Newsom's response is to deploy the National Guard to the food banks to help out. Meanwhile, we have a president in office that spends late nights creating AI videos of himself in fighter jets, King Trump, and pooping on the American people. So while one chooses to use the National Guard to actually help the American people during a crisis time, the actual leader of this country uses his free time to literally shit on the American people.
It's day 22 of the government shutdown, and Governor Gavin Newsom announced that he is deploying National Guard troops to help staff food banks. He says that people who depend on SNAP benefits or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as CalFresh here in California, could be seeing delays in their food benefits starting in November. He took similar action during the pandemic when he deployed the National Guard to assist those food banks. I went out to River City Food Bank today where there were very long lines. The director there says that they have been anticipating that this might happen, but they are not going anywhere. But still, so many people who are dependent on this program are nervous how they're going to be able to provide food on their tables for their families.
Hey guys, with some news. California Governor Gavin Newsom has activated the state National Guard, not to attack peaceful protesters like Trump, but to help keep food banks running as Republican-led government shutdown drags on. The deployment is strictly humanitarian. Troops are not being used for security or policing in any way. They are being sent to help distribute food, move supplies, and support overwhelmed staff as demand surges statewide. The governor also announced $80 million in state funds to reinforce food programs, saying that no family should go hungry because Washington is failing to do this job. Millions of Californians rely on CalFresh benefits, and with those funds at risk during the shutdown, food banks have been struggling to keep up. State officials say the Guard's role is similar to its work during the pandemic: logistics, transportation, and support. No timeline for how long they'll stay deployed, but Newsom says the mission will continue as long as federal stalemates threaten basic food access to Californians. This is the first state-level National Guard deployment of its kind under the current shutdown.
We have some pretty big news right now. California Governor Gavin Newsom has announced that he will be deploying the California National Guard to support food banks across the state of California as the government shutdown goes on. He says that, quote, he will deploy these National Guard members on a humanitarian mission to support food banks as the federal government shutdown delays food benefits for millions of California families. In addition to the National Guard, Newsom also says that he was going to be fast-tracking about $80 million in state support ahead of essentially food assistance running out for California residents. Right now, if the shutdown continues, SNAP benefits will run out for most Americans, including most folks in California, at the end of the month. And so he wants to make sure that the California food banks are supported and are ready to provide more assistance to California families. And he also wants to make sure that California families receive some type of financial assistance from the state, even if the federal government won't do the same. So this is pretty big news. I'll provide you more
updates. A major announcement from Governor Gavin Newsom. He's deploying the California National Guard and volunteers to support food banks statewide. All of this coming as the government shutdown impacts not only federal workers going without pay, but potentially CalFresh funding as well. Newsom warned this week that if the federal shutdown continues past Thursday, there won't be money available to fund CalFresh, which is part of SNAP, come November. In his statement announcing the California National Guard deployment, Newsom blamed President Trump. He said in part, quote, Trump's failure isn't abstract. It's literally taking food out of people's mouths. This is serious. This is urgent and requires immediate action. Millions of Americans rely on food benefits to feed their families, and while Republicans in Washington drag their feet, California is stepping up once again to fill in the gaps. Newsom also announced that the state is fast-tracking up to $80 million in emergency funding. That move mirrors a similar one made during the pandemic. Officials say this is a humanitarian mission and that the National Guard will not be acting as law enforcement. Newsom's announcement comes as local food banks say they've been stretched thin. Congressman Eric Swalwell spoke after visiting the Alameda County Food Bank this week.
Because of the shutdown, At risk are 5.5 million people in California who rely upon CalFresh. That's our state's version of SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which could run out imminently, meaning children will go hungry.
The Alameda County Board of Supervisors are considering an emergency plan to cover the gaps, up to $10 million for food assistance. The board is set to make a final decision at its Tuesday meeting.
Well, there's a new mission for the Cal Guard, but this time it's the governor giving the order, and the order is to help ensure Californians get fed. Governor Newsom announcing he's deploying Guard members to support food banks across the state and here in the Bay Area. Here's NBC's Marianne Favreau.
Second Harvest leaders say they don't know yet when the National Guard members will arrive here, and it's not the first time that the National Guard has stepped in to help them. During the pandemic in 2020, National Guard members helped food banks across California pack, distribute, and deliver meals. Today, Governor Newsom ordered them to return to food banks, including Second Harvest of Silicon Valley, to do the same work for a much different reason: the increased demand for food being created by the federal government shutdown. The Guard deployment comes as millions of Californians are being told SNAP food assistance benefits, which includes CalFresh, are expected to be halted in a matter of weeks and will stay that way till the federal government reopens.
We really appreciate the recognition of the strain that this puts on food banks, and we have really benefited from the support of the Guard in the past. In this moment, we are fortunate that we have built back our community volunteer workforce, and what we really need is funds and food.
Today, the governor also announced the state is fast-tracking up to $80 million in emergency funding to keep food banks stocked. In a statement, Newsom said, while Republicans in Washington drag their feet, California is stepping up once again to fill in the gaps. I'm expediting state funds for food banks and directing the California National Guard and California volunteers to help distribute this food to families. At San Francisco Marin Food Bank, which serves 36,000 households a week, leaders are concerned the mere presence of National Guard members may deter some from getting the food they need.
What's really important to us is that our community has access to food without fear, and that everyone who needs food, regardless of immigration status, has the ability to get the food they need for their families to thrive.
The governor is expected to outline details of the Guard deployment by November 1st. In the meantime, food banks are hoping federal lawmakers will provide a better solution.
We would like Congress to fund SNAP. We want to avert a crisis that policy is causing.
Another reason for me to love my governor, Gavin Newsom. He is deploying the National Guard here in California, but it's not like what you're thinking. He's deploying the National Guard so that they can distribute food to people who are affected by the shutdown, number one. And the shutdown is causing things like SNAP benefits, food stamps to run out. You know, the government shutdown, yeah. The one that everybody's trying to blame on Democrats, but in fact, they won't negotiate with the Democrats. And they're saying the government won't open up until the Democrats sign off on the bill. That's not how it works. Mike Johnson is the one who recessed the House. The Senate is still in session. They're all being paid. Mike Johnson says the House will reopen when the Democrats sign off on the bill. Well, the Democrats aren't signing off on the bill because that will get rid of the subsidies on your health care insurance, and nobody wants that to happen. So basically, the government stays shut down. And one of the results of the shutdown is food stamps, SNAP programs are running out of money. So California is bringing in $80 million so far, and they're setting up food banks all up and down California to help people get food who will not have food stamps or SNAP benefits this month. So thumbs up to Gavin Newsom, 2028.
Yeah, that man is absolutely tripping. Nobody wants Gavin Newsom to be the president. We can all look at the state of California and see that it is terrible. Why would we want the rest of the USA to be like California? And I am glad to see Gavin Newsom mobilize the National Guard to help out the food banks. I think that was a okay call. But The fact that everyone is so dependent on the government for food, for money, and all these other services is absolutely wild to me. And this is how they have been able to bump up the job numbers and make it look like we're doing good. But really, in all actuality, the government is supplementing a lot of people and a lot of other services. But y'all leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Check out these videos down below. Subscribe to the channel, especially for great cooking content. I'll see you guys in the next one. Foodie gang, gang, gang. Foodie gang, gang, gang.